GRIDLIFE's Track Battle Time Attack Series, rebranded this season for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship, features a new format for 2023, the Podium Sprint. The goal of the weekend, be top 5 in your category, all in order to compete in a single driver 2-lap dash of those top 5 to set your final weekend position in each of your classes. Welcome back. It is time now at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for our final competition of the weekend for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. I'm Kyle Heyer with Greg Kramer. Greg, Sunday Cup is on track. And in just a moment's time, we're going to roll the podium sprint for all 7 of our track battle classes.
And this is going to be fascinating. We have seen this track be surprisingly fast into the afternoon. We were really surprised by some of the times that were turned in qualifying 3. So that means we could see a lot of things evolve during this session. People can find it. People can tweak that last little bit of setup. This is going to be brilliant. Coverage
of GRIDLIFE Mid-Ohio Meet is powered by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive. And Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE Track Battle. Cars are on track now, and Greg, these are our 5 Sunday Cup competitors on track. James Smith, David Best, Brad Smith, Cooper Pierce, and Kevin Gu. Now this class, Falcon Sunday Cup, runs a bit of a different format. They are all released together, and after one full lap, the next time by, we start eliminating them from their slowest lap. So if you run a really quick lap, lap 1, you might be able to hang on until the very end of the session, but you need to get quick fast, because if you're not fast on this first lap, you are on the chopping block for that first lap of eliminations.
This is a little bit different format than the other classes we'll see, which is single car out for 2 designated laps. But yeah, these laps, you've got to dig deep right away, and that's part of what this this format allowed for, was you still have the pressure of needing to put laps in very quickly. And you know, oftentimes that first or second lap might be the one that ends up winning the thing, but you've got to keep digging in this.
You have to keep digging, and you have to push. And Falcon Sunday Cup was just a crazy qualifying 3 earlier this afternoon. So much shifting and shuffling. It bumped out drivers as late as that final lap. So there was just so much going on that really, there was probably 8 or 9 cars that could have competed here, depending on when they set their laps. But David Best, the orange car, entering frame, you hear the tires protesting. They are pushing hard for this first lap.
They are working hard. You have to, because if you don't get that top 5 lap in, you know, if you're not in the top 4, let's put it that way, at the end of this first lap, you're done. You'll continue around the track, but in terms of the competition, you're out. So here we go. First car across, a 150.1 for Best.
And Brad Smith, a 150.6. Who's next? Cooper Pierce, top of the board at a 149.572. Kevin Gu, second quick. James Smith, fourth quick. That puts Brad Smith on the chopping block, but they gets one more lap to improve it before that elimination process begins. So as they rolled back around, Greg, Brad Smith needs to find 0.2 of a second to beat James Smith and keep himself from getting eliminated.
Exactly. Then that's assuming that Smith's time stays the same. He might improve, and everybody in front might improve. So this is where it's, you know, you're really playing a dicey game here, in terms of you've just got to put down laps. You've got to drive this, you know, basically like it's almost a 10-lap shootout here, and go for it, because you never know what the guys around you are going to be able to do.
Into turns 4 and 5. And Cooper Pierce in this 170 has been really impressive. But there's that 92, the slowest driver of the 5 so far. And 2.5 tenths is all he's got to find to stay in the show. They're going to get 5 laps. And each lap, one of these drivers is going to get knocked off the top, or knocked off the bottom of the list on your screen. So we'll see who can hang on.
His lap is looking good. The problem is that Cooper Pierce is easing away from him at this stage, so that's going to be a bit of a concern at this point. Fastest time of all, we mentioned a 149.5, but right now it's a really more down to finding 3/4 tenths on top of that 150.6 for Brad Smith at the back here to continue on in this competition. Can he do it? Here we go. Cars coming around for their second time.
And looks like David Best goes to the top of the board. Brad Smith does improve, so it's James Smith on the chopping block in the 130. He enters the final turn. Can he pull himself off that bottom step? Kevin Gu goes to the top. James Smith across the start-finish line. He does not go quicker, and James Smith will be your first elimination in the Sunday Cup Podium Sprint.
Boy, Brad Smith found it when he needed. Well done by Brad, and he stays in the competition. So now, each lap, isn't it?
Yep, so every lap from here on out, we're pulling one away. So James Smith is out. Brad Smith just pulled it together. Now, James Smith had been fighting some issues with some bushings, and that's why he's been a little wild this weekend. He said it thinks it contributed to his spin earlier in the weekend. Rear beam bushings are blown on that car, so he was just doing what he could to make it work out for him here. But down into turn 4 again, David Best in that 134 with the second quickest time. Kevin Gu at a 149.068 is 3/10 to the good. That time might stick for a little while.
It might. It was a really stout lap. And now, of course, we are following the 92 of Brad Smith. And he did this last time. He was chasing somebody, used them as a little bit of a carrot, and it seemed to motivate him and help him find a little speed. And depending upon what, say, Cooper Pierce does in front of the 49.4, now Brad Smith has to find about half a second. That's a big ask.
Yeah, and again, if Brad Smith stays P4, he will be the next driver knocked off in the podium sprint here in this knockout competition. You know, the cutest cars on track have the fiercest fight
yes,
with
this
knockout. This is like a video game when you're trying not to be last and you're trying to carve your way through the field. David Best and Brad Smith round the final corner, coming back to the stripe this time through as we're working on an issue in the background, so we'll let you know who can improve and who does not. David Best, Brad Smith stays fourth quick. And if he does not improve, that's going to be it. Brad Smith will be your second elimination here in the Sunday Cup Podium Sprint.
Cooper Pierce just jumped up to second with a really good lap as well at a 49 flat. You know, right now, folks, the margin between Kevin Gu on the top and Cooper Pierce in second, 22 one-thousandths of a second. Incredibly close. So now it's David Best that's on the bubble, if you will, and he's got to find a large bit of time here. He's got to find almost 4/10.
You know, it's crazy when you say 4/10 of a second. That's not all that much time. But is in comparison to all the times over the course of the weekend, it's been so close. So he rockets down the back straightaway here and heads for turn 4. Kevin Gu in that Honda Civic, that EF Civic, still the fastest driver out there. Cooper Pierce just 200ths behind.
Best turned in a little early. The car started to rotate. He really clipped the curb on the inside of 4. We'll see whether that hurt his momentum just a little bit. The curb clip didn't concern me. It was a little bit of rotation before that.
See if he can pull himself out of it, though. If he does not improve his time, he is eliminated this time around. Into turn 9, and he's got Brad Smith following him again. Smith is eliminated, so his improvement will not assist him at this stage.
So this is it, up through 11. Such a tricky corner here. And David Best feeding the way through there, doing a nice job of it in that lead car of these two. Now, working that final corner, and it's so critical to get through this one. He looked pretty good, Kyle.
David Best has to improve and beat his 149.366. Is he going to do it this time through? He does not. So David Best is going to be eliminated as our third driver out, and that leaves Cooper Pierce in the 170 and the 463 of Kevin Gu as the last two drivers. Now, Cooper Pierce did not improve last time either, so it's just down to these two. If Cooper does not improve, Kevin Gu is your winner.
And that's how it plays out. You've got to keep charging here. It's only 23 one-thousandths of a second that Cooper Pierce has to find, assuming Kevin Gu does not find anything more. And here's the interesting thing. You know, in a way, this really does come down to 3-lap, maybe 4-lap qualifying, because at this point, you hear those tires chirping. They have been working these tires very hard. It's going to be difficult for them to be quicker, unless on one of the laps they made some sort of little mistake that they can now overcome. Otherwise, this is a big chore at this stage for either of them to find any speed. But Cooper Pierce doing everything he can here. And here he comes into frame. Not too bad. Nice line, nice aggressive attack. A bit of rotation there, up over the top of 5.
Down into 6 now. Does he have enough, Greg? This is 23 thousandths of a second.
I know, it's just staggering how close this is. And he gives a lot of room to the apex in 8. He likes that wider line because it gives him more flow. It makes his turn into 9 a little bit less sharp, and he can roll a bit more speed. Here we go, up into 11, Kyle. So tricky here.
Last two corners for Cooper Pierce in the white Honda Fit. Needs to find time this lap through. The checkered flag is waving this time through. Kevin Gu is leading the way. He's got to defend it. But here comes Cooper Pierce. Is it going to be an improvement for the 170? It is not. So Kevin Gu in the 463, the EF Honda Civic, he wins Falcon Sunday Cup here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Great run. He put that lap up early, and he just flowed so much speed here. And we talk about this for this class. It's all about momentum and not over-slowing for the corners, rolling as much speed as you can so you exit the turn as fast as possible, since you don't have big gobs of horsepower to accelerate big time out of a corner. And Kevin Gu, by a 22 one-thousandths of a second margin, did it just that little bit better than Cooper Pierce.
Yeah, great work there by the 463 and put that lap in and was able to lean on it as the tires were protesting a little bit more. So excellent work, Greg. And that's one class down. We have 6 to go. And next up will be Falcon Club TR.
And now with this one, now we do the switch up. And now the cars, they go out, they do 2 laps by themselves. Now after they complete their first lap, the second car will start its run with a gap. So you'll have a couple of cars out on track at the same time, but they should be a half a lap apart, and we're focusing only on that car that's on the time. And we'll see how that plays out, because this Class 2 was one in that previous qualifying session. We were surprised.
So they will head back to pit lane and turn the field over to Club TR in just a moment. And they will head on track to begin their story. Again, one at a time. Evan Weeder looks like he's the top seed at the moment. And, or I guess the bottom seed, the slowest of the Club TR cars. Actually, sorry, Evan McLaren in the 514 is already on track, working his way through 5. They're real efficient up there today and already have him on track.
Getting the job done. And in the overall, after the 3 sessions, McLaren sitting in that 5th spot at a 136.7, a 136.1 quickest. So only 6/10 separate this entire group at the top 5. But that means, obviously, that it gets a little bit more difficult to try and find that time. But Evan McLaren is going to give it his all here. And here he comes around to start his flyer.
Here he comes into the carousel in that 514 Acura Integra. And we'll begin his 1 flying lap, or 2 flying laps, I should say. And lap 1 might be the one to watch. Here we go for Evan McLaren off into turn number 1. Just a tip in on the brakes right there. It dives on the nose. Maybe down a gear, maybe not. Through turn 1 here at probably over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, this is a really quick turn. As you said, you just breathe the brakes, maybe it down a gear just to get it in the right rev range if you need to. Then that light climb up here into the keyhole, turn in, diamond it a little bit, and then it starts to fall away. And you need to be on the throttle as soon as you can, because you're now onto the longest straight here at Mid-Ohio. There's this little kink, which is really, in terms of a corner, speed-wise, doesn't exist. It's just flat chat. And then into the most challenging corner in terms of braking, down into turn 4, high speeds here at the turn in. How does he look? Not bad, a little bit wide of the apex, but floated beautifully. Didn't let him get upset by missing that apex just a little bit. Looked like he was pretty solid up and around at the Madness section.
Yeah, here he comes now through turn 6. Looking good, pushing, certainly. Hear the brakes squealing as well. And off into turn 9. You hear those brakes. Are they up to temperature, Greg? I haven't heard that car doing that all weekend
I
long.
haven't either. Of course, there's been a lot of other cars out previously when he's been out, but yeah, he's really getting some brake squeal. All right, up into 11. This is that blind uphill commitment turn in that's fast. Beautiful, right to the edge of the track. Yeah,
really good run for Evan McLaren so far from what I can tell. 136.130 is the fastest lap time we have seen in Club TR this weekend. What will Evan McLaren do? A 137.764. So not the best lap that he has done this weekend, but all that matters is that it's the best lap in this session.
And he gets this next lap, so if he didn't get those tires quite up to temp, and you were hearing all that brake squeal, maybe the brakes weren't quite there. You see he tends to turn in relatively early down, or up there I should say, in the keyhole, as we're at one of the higher points of the track here. And we have our second car out, but we're going to follow this lap by McLaren right now as he heads down once again into turn 4.
Yeah, and he's got his banker lap in a nice, clean, respectable lap. I don't think it would win as is, but if he can go a little quicker this time and push those braking zones a bit more, carry a little more speed, it certainly could be a contender. He got into the podium sprint, Greg. Once you're in, the worst you can do is 5th.
Exactly, and that time he just looked a little bit better in terms of the braking and turn into 4. Really good as usual through 5. He's been really good up and over the top of Madness, and now through 6. And here's that run up and over the very tricky turn 8. Just get it right. Just touch that outside curb, turn in. Look good there.
Yeah, nicely done. I think this lap feels a little quicker to me.
It does. It does.
I think he'll pick up some time. How much is the question? A little bit less on the brakes into turn 11 there. Right out to the edge of the rumble strip using all the road, and then into the carousel. A front-wheel drive car, you have to be so patient here. Coming back around this long carousel and up onto the front straight. Evan McLaren in the 514. He was the bottom seed. If he doesn't improve, he does. A 137 flat, a 137.049, and that will leave him for now atop the board of everyone that's gone. But here's Evan Weeder, seated 4th. Should be faster based on his seating here, Greg, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, they were separated by about 2/100ths of a second between 4th Weeder and 5th McLaren in that seating. All of that goes out the window now because this is all about the times turn right now. And he comes by, starts his first of 2 laps. And just as a reference point, McLaren, that 137.0, little off of his 136.7, but we don't know whether that was him just not being as fast or if the track isn't as quick at this stage. So these next couple of cars will start to define that a bit for us.
Yeah, and the first banker for Evan Weeder, not as quick as McLaren's lap. So we were spoiled a bit in Q3 with that really nice, fast, cool track. I don't think it's quite as good now. And we just did this right after a drift session, Greg, so I'm sure that the rubber is a bit all over the place as well. So we have to consider that as potentially a reason why we're running some slower lap times. But down into turn 4 for Evan Weeder on his second and final lap. We'll see what he can get in that Acuity Honda Civic.
And you can hear him really dancing on the throttle there, and a lot of tire chirp down through there. And sometimes you hear that excessive tire chirp, and it means you're just side scrubbing the tires a little bit too much. You don't mind just that sort of easy to hear little squeal, but when the tires are screaming a little bit, that means that you're actually scrubbing some speed here. So we'll see what he's able to do here. And Fez Baber has started his warm-up lap as well. So for Weeder here, needs to really dial this up.
Into the carousel now. Weeder in the 531. Again, that banker lap wasn't quicker than McLaren's, so if he does not improve, then he will finish at best second in this session. But across the stripe for Weeder, and to the top of the board, 136.926 for Evan Weeder.
Boy, he dug that deep. You could hear him hustling the car a lot more on that second lap. So that's good for him. And now Fez Baber coming around in one of the, this is an absolutely gorgeous car, and getting ready to start off on his first lap.
Yeah, I think he's already taken the greens. This is coming to
right.
the
Yep, sorry about
checkers, or I guess the white of his run here. This is the end of lap 1.
Ooh, that was awfully wide there.
Let's see what it does for Fez Baber in the number 61 Marizo Motorsports GR86. A 37.096, just hundredths off of McLaren, but here's lap 2.
Well, you know what? We saw him run that really big, wide arc and diamond that carousel corner. He may have said, I know that lap wasn't as fast as I can go, so I'm going to ignore it, and I'm going to set up and really lay one down here. So let's see what he can do.
Into the keyhole for the second time. Kind of throttling down with the right foot to try to get that car to rotate.
Yep.
And now the lunge down the back straightaway towards turn 4. And this is where Fez is going to try to find some time with that right foot. We've seen him slide the car around, and he was not slow doing it so far this weekend.
Yeah, he doesn't have any issue with a little bit of rotation and slip angle in this thing. There he comes. Nice and smooth there. You can see, and that's what I was talking about. That's that little bit of tire squeal. That's okay. That means you're just on the limit of that tire and going hard. Ooh. Grabs a little bit of dirt there. Just using, trying to shorten every line here, Kyle.
Yeah, and that was pretty tight to the right there, but that just tells me that he had the car pointed early and he was able to get back to throttle. So I don't think it was all that slow. Maybe a bit compromising to overslow perhaps a bit into 6, but the lap we thought was going to be slow earlier in Q3 was his best of the weekend.
Exactly.
So I don't really know how to judge it until he crosses the line.
Yep, well, and that's going to happen here momentarily. But again, he goes way out, and that's a long way around. But he likes that. Apparently, likes that angle on it. See what happens.
Checkered flag, Fez Bobber, and does not improve that time. A 37.8, so pretty far off actually.
Yeah.
So he will stay P3. And Peter Granberg up next Mario Maroney in the 727. Thanks, Greg. He's already on his first flying lap and coming to the completion of it. And he was another one that caught us by surprise in Q3.
Yeah, came from 6th to 2nd in that, so it was unbelievable. Let's see what he does here in that first lap.
Top of the board, takes the elevator ride all the way to the top of the pylon, 136.556 by 0.4 of a second, and that's a gap that could stick for a while.
Whoa,
wide and one, that was close, Greg. Man, that was tight.
Well, I think he knew he put in a pretty good first lap, so let's really give it here. Sometimes when you think you've nailed that first lap, you can kind of throw a little bit of caution to the wind and just try and really stop one, and that either ends in great success or disaster. And he got away with it there.
Yeah, he certainly did. And now the braking zone for 4, this is the one I'm worried about. He's been so aggressive on the binders this year. It's put him sideways a couple of times. If he can get it slowed down, he's going to be in great shape here. Looks smooth so far. Into turn 4. Nicely done, Greg.
Yeah. Shallowed up the exit a little bit, went hard to throttle. Sometimes you want to roll a bit more speed through that corner and run a little wider. He's actually, he's running shallow lines everywhere, but that means it's a shorter line if he's not getting rid of too much speed to do that. So interesting to look at this lap in total from up high. Ooh, got a little bit of rotation there through turn 9. As he turned in, the back end came around a little bit, but doesn't look like it cost him too badly here. Let's see what happens.
A 36.556 is a quick lap. I'd be surprised if he could do 2 of these back to back.
Yep.
They give you 2 laps. Sometimes you only use 1, but here comes Maroney through the final corner now, setting up for that final run to the checkers. There's the checkered flag for the 727. Is it an improvement? It is not. A 39.4, so that's a couple seconds off actually, and he will stick with the 36.5 as there's Peter Granberg in the 5.11 coming to the completion of his first lap, Greg. And Peter Granberg was the top seed coming in, so this is the battle for the win. A huge slide there at turn 12.
Yeah, that's not going to help. You can see now that it makes that turn in through 13 really tight comparatively, and it shows there with a 37.8. Yeah, he needs to tidy that up a bit.
Yeah, came in as the top seed, so the expectation is that he's the top seed coming out. We're a little wide at turn 1, and he's pushing hard, Greg. He needs to find 1.3 seconds to be on top of the board.
Yeah, and the problem here is twofold for the way he slid wide in the carousel. When you tighten up that exit, it slows down the lap you're on, but it doesn't give you the run to start the next lap. Then he had that big moment at the exit of 1, so he's starting sort of on his rear foot here, right from the off on this lap. But he's going to dig. He's going to do everything he possibly can.
Into turn 4 now. New partnership with the K-Power Group this year. This is a K-Swap Honda engine under the hood of this Subaru. It has been many things in the past. Supercharged and over the crest at 5, getting everything he can out of that K24.
Well, it's a fun lap to watch. There's no question about that. Unfortunately, I really don't think this one's going to get the job done. Certainly in terms of the win, he might move up into what let's call a medal position potentially here. But boy, it's just fun to watch him flog it, knowing he has to find some magic here.
Man, he's hustling through turn 11.
He sure is.
This could be a huge win for him against a really stout field of competitors in Falcon Club TR. One of the most competitive classes in the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. Tight and loose all at once out of the final corner. Here comes Peter Granberg across the stripe, and it's slower.
Yeah.
He will stay 5th place, and it slips away. And Mario Maroney, with that heroic effort in qualifying 3 from 7th to 2nd, is your winner of Falcon Club TR here at Mid-Ohio. That is unbelievable.
Just a superb day for Mario. And just doing a great job. Congratulations, Mario. And Granberg gave it his all, but he had those 3 moments, starting that last lap and then the moments in the lap that were just a bit too much.
Here is street class. Eddie Siegel in the 470. He's going to be the first of those drivers to log a lap, so he will be 6th quickest overall, but again, only compared to drivers in your class. So he's really setting the baseline laps here for the next 4 competitors that will follow him.
Yeah, and you can see where he sits on that first lap. There's more to come from Eddie for sure here.
And up onto the back straightaway for his Honda Civic. Another Acuity car, which has had a couple representative cars in the top 3 in a couple different categories so far.
They feel not just good-looking cars, they feel well-prepped cars that you can get the job done in for sure.
Into 4. Hear the turbo blow-off valve there coming into 5. Love the sound of that.
Absolutely.
Just a really clean lap so far. And he already has a pretty decent lap in the book there, a 36.8. And as far as the seed time for Eddie, it was a 37.2. So he's already gone faster than that by 0.4.
That's impressive. Yeah, so, I mean, he's finding it when he needs it here.
And into turn 11. Now, Siegel was...
really smooth, isn't he?
Yeah, Siegel was actually seated, I guess, 4th out of the 5. So Greg Formosa did not make a run here. So I'm not sure if we're expecting him or if he showed up late or what, but... I have not seen him as Eddie Siegel comes across the line, and he will stay at a 136.870. And there's the target to hit now for the next car on track, which is going to be Tony Barber in the 333 Tesla Model 3. And here he is.
And again, this car, he's going to be carrying a fair bit more weight than the other competitors, but he's got that all-wheel drive working for him, and he's got that absolutely amazing launch when he comes out of a turn. There's no gearing. You just push the throttle pedal, and it just accelerates till you stop.
And went to the top of
Look at that.
the street class by 1.8 seconds. Now, Tony is leading the street class standings as it is right now, 87 points in his 4 rounds, and he's won 2 of the 4 rounds that he's entered in. 2nd at Carolina Motorsports Park and 3rd at Gingerman Raceway at our Midwest Festival, but 1 at Watkins Glen and 1 at Barber Motorsports Park. And the driver that is 3rd in the standings, Eddie Siegel, who is back about 25 points, but Eddie has 1 less round than Tony Barber, so things could close up.
Well, let's see what he's going to do and see if he can improve on it.
That thing is so fast on the straightaways, Greg. Every time it hits the brakes, you can see that weight lunge forward onto that front axle.
Yeah, it's quick, it's heavy, but you can actually flow some nice speed. Again, it's all down to the setup on this car with the weight, but the all-wheel drive. And if you can make it work, that as you start to turn in, you get that little bit of rotation, then you feed it a little bit of throttle, and it just pulls you around the corner. And let's see what he's going to be able to do here. A 35 flat on his first lap.
Through turn 11 now. And already on top of Eddie Siegel, but the best he can do now is just improve this lap time and hopefully prevent an attack from Joe Mielke and the other cars that are upcoming. And into turn 13, here comes Tony Barber. Can he improve on his time? He does not. So a 35.055 is Tony Barber's podium sprint lap here in the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. So it's going to be Luca Barberis, I believe, up next. And he's already taken the green flag. He'll be coming back around to complete his first lap. There he is in the number 63 Mitsubishi Evo.
And he was about a 1.5 seconds quicker than Tony was in the combined qualifying. So he's somebody that certainly has the ability to make a big move here. See what he does as he comes through.
And on top by 0.8 of a second for Luca Barberis. So put the 63 up on top of the board for street class for now. He's got 1 more lap and has to defend from Joe Mielke in the 5.55, who was 0.5 seconds quicker in qualifying this weekend. So it's still going to be a fight to the end here.
It is. So he knows he's got to really put together a second lap here. That's got to be just almost mesmerizing for him to have a really good shot at this, because Emilke is going to be strong. He always is. But now focusing on what we're seeing from Luca Barberis, and watch, turn 4-5 really is going to give you a clue here how this lap is going for him.
Onto the brakes, jumps the curb there a little bit, got some bounce in the rear suspension, Greg. I don't know if that curbing clip helped him there a whole lot. Little slide out of 5 as well, but nicely controlled. Sometimes nibbling the curb on the apex will help you, but if it just puts your car into a bounce, you're losing traction every time the car is airborne there.
Yeah, and as it bounces, it skips, and that's you're sliding just that little bit sideways, and that scrub speed.
Up onto the backstretch through Thunder Valley and into turn 11 once again. Real close to that red Armco. I was told earlier that one of the cars just folded their mirror in on the run into turn 11, just trying to get a little extra track.
Well, you use all the track, and that's just like driving a street circuit. If you don't brush a mirror on a wall every once in a while there, and in that corner, you've got to take advantage of it. What does he do?
33.9.
Wow, big improvement.
That is a really good lap for street all-wheel drive. And still not a record-breaking lap like we did earlier in the weekend, but here's Joe Milke and on a mission to dethrone Luca Barberis, but we'll see if he can do it. That's a pretty good lap there by the 63.
It's not bad at all. Yeah, this is he definitely delivered a message here. Look at that wide arc. I don't know if he meant that, because he got a little wide of the apex. Was that intentional or just an overshoot of the corner? Let's see. That was good.
By a full second over Luca Barberis at a 32.923. And for Joe Milke, without Greg Formosa running in this group, that will automatically lock him in as the weekend winner here in street class for the Podium Sprint at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. He doesn't know that yet. He'll know it after the checkered falls, and he heads back to pit lane, though.
Yep, unless the crew, he's got a radio, and they go, you've got it, don't worry about it. But hey, this is sort of like when your competitor in the long jump defaults and there's one jump to go. This is all fun now.
Right.
And why not see if he can go out there and just scorch one? I mean, I think he's got a couple spots here where he could find that little bit more speed. I'm going to be really intrigued to watch him now through 11 and 12 into the carousel the next time here.
Big scrub on the front wheels there, but...
Yeah, he turned in a little late up there, and then really had to push trying to get back into the apex.
Well, all-wheel drive cars, they have a huge advantage in traction, but in certain places they're also carrying a lot more weight, and it can be cumbersome to lug all that equipment around in the front end. And so you're giving up some cornering performance in some places to gain it in others.
Yep, and it's a little harder to slow down, a little harder to turn, so brakes and tires tend to take a little bit more abuse. He goes really wide down there again. So this time he's a lot closer to the apex, so this could be a good lap.
Yeah.
Because it looked a little cleaner. Let's watch.
The classic fight, yes. A 132.664 improvement and a win for Joe Milke in the street class for the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Podium Sprint. And the classic Evolution versus Subaru battle continues. Give it to Team Subaru this time around.
Yep, great lap by Milke. Put two of them together that were good enough. And that second one was just for show, just for fun. And he absolutely nailed it.
Street GT up next. And Nicholas Hendricks in the 364. There he is in the C6 Corvette. A lot like Ido Waxman's car in this same category, slightly different color. He's on a hot lap. We'll see what he sets down. He qualified in with a time of 1:34.708. Real quick out of turn 13. And it's a 35.4 this time around.
So this next lap is going to be really, really crucial here. I mean, the people he's up against in this category are pretty tough. Wow.
That extra curbing that they added, I mean, they might have added, 13 inches, and every driver knew I got 13 more inches on corner exit. Now I'm going to put my tire 13.5. Just hang that sidewall over the edge of the road and onto the sand here. Just awesome stuff to watch. The precision in a car with this much horsepower, with this little arrow, you're not driving the car out there, Greg. You get back on throttle, and the car is going to wash itself out, and you need to plan that throttle planting perfectly, and the car will end up where you decide to put it. But it's not where you steer it, it's where your feet put it.
Exactly. And I absolutely love it when we see cars coming out here with not one iota of aero, because then it's down to purely mechanical grip. only what the tires and the suspension, the setup of the car offer, and the driver's ability with his butt to feel it, feel when he's on the limit, feel when he's got more room to go. This is old school racing here, and you know, I'm old enough that I'm nostalgic about it. I love it. You know, my favorite classes are those with no aero, because that's where a driver can really stand out. And this lap looks a bit better. Let's see if he's going to be able to improve on that 135.4.
H-pattern gearbox and no aero. It's like old Formula One.
Yeah.
Across the stripe for Nicholas Hendricks, and it's a pickup to a 34.959.
That was a nice pickup. But you can see here the weight and the lack of aero versus some of the cars that we saw out already, you know, that are smaller displacement, but are lighter, and you can really hustle here. Here's a look at the next car out on the run, and this is the 17 of Alex Arteat in the BMW M3. Yeah, Alex Arteat, I don't know that he's had a shot at this podium sprint format just yet. But here he goes across the stripe, and about 0.6 off of Hendricks' time here on the first lap out. But lap 2 is the critical one here. This is his last opportunity, leaning on the right side, and again, all the road plus some. Well, that's the thing. If you're going to add a little bit of curbing to the curbing and you don't make it aggressive, they're going to use it. Well, they made it smooth. They got to put some ripples in it. Like that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Road America, you know, they get out there and they go, oh, I don't want to be out there anymore. Yeah, this is shaking the bolts loose, so you don't want to be there. But yeah, they're going to use every ounce of track in these runs here, and he certainly is. Down into turn number 4 now, waiting for the big braking. There he is into the shot. I know this car can do north of 150 miles an hour, and it was likely doing that on the run down to the braking zone. Really tighty all the way from 4 up through 5, and that section called Madness. There's 6. Use that curb in 7, just wrapped around that beautifully. Up over the rise here in 8. Floated out a lot, but got it woed down. Got it down to the line on the apex, and really good run through that section. Yeah, just, you know, again, planting these cars without all this aero, I'm just so impressed by the ability of the drivers to land the car where they want it on exit. Yeah. Because once you commit back to the throttle, the car's just going to land, and where you end up on track at track out is a decision you made 300 feet ago. Exactly. Here comes Alex Arteat, final corner. Here he comes in the 17. Can he knock Hendricks down a spot? No. 135.448. He will stay second in Street GT for now. And now, one of my favorite cars here, the 187 of Keenan Prusank, the Camaro. You know, there's so many beautiful cars here. I just love the look of that modern retro Camaro, and especially when they throw out some thunder like this bad boy does. That's a neat looking car. It is. Sounds nice too. It sounds great. And he was another one of those drivers that snuck his way in at the 11th hour in qualifying 3. And let's see what lap 1 holds for Keenan Prusank. It was a magic lap earlier, and top of the board, 134.444. By about half a second, so really good lap. And one of the things that I love about the sound of this car as we're watching this lap, it's got that V8 thunder to it, but it's got like that thinner crossover pipe howl to it. So it sounds like it's revving super high, and that's just cool. Yeah, just a great engine sound. An engine sound that has kind of gone away from cars like the C8 Corvette that now uses that flat-plane crank engine, where the engine note changes significantly and has that more kind of V8 sound that you'd associate with European cars like the Ferrari V8 engines. But I love a good old classic American V8, and down into the braking zone for 4. Keenan has done well with it, but now it's still offense to see if he can stay up in the mix here. He's going to be on the podium no matter what, but oh boy, he's searching for more. Yep, giving it some welly up over the top, and and he might be looking for some of these little slides to help. That's a big car to help get it rotated a little bit. And that one up over the top of 5 might have been a little bit excessive. That 1 out of 6, that may have been intentional. Just give it the boot, get that back end to swing around a little bit. And now this big run up through here. And the faster you get in these cars, especially the ones without aero, look at him attack that. Use the front end of that curb as a reference point. See what he does here. He is giving it everything he can, Kyle. Last turn through the carousel and out of turn 13. Keenan Prusank in the 187 Chevy Camaro.
does not go quicker. 134, 444, fastest time we've seen in Street GT so far. There are 2 cars left. Kyle Magnuson in a Porsche Cayman and Ido Waxman in a C6 Corvette. Here comes Kyle.
Really cool graphics on this car, just that yellow and black, they just stand out so well against each other. And he has been really quick here this weekend. You know, coming into this, he had turned to 132.7.
Little bobble there at the carousel, but nice balance and got back to throttle and was able to get back online for turn 13 and across the stripe. Still goes to the top at a 33.786. And for those that are looking very carefully, they might see the dent in the roof. I said earlier this weekend, this car was upside down at Barber Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago and still finished on the podium in that event and is still here running. And Kyle Magnuson got in a gravel trap, just turned over real gently, and car's ready to rip. And
well, it obviously didn't affect his speed at all.
Dimpled like a golf ball. It goes a little faster now.
Exactly. Hopefully it dimples right so it creates downforce and not lift.
Down the backstretch, the 718 Cayman. What a great vehicle for this class, for this kind of track driving. This is, in my mind, an ideal track vehicle for a lot of reasons. But jumps the curb at turn 4, and the balance of that car. It's no mystery that Porsche has based their GT4 car off of this platform for a reason, but just got it a little bit wrong there, Greg.
Yeah, well, he had missed, I think it all started, he missed the turn-in up at 5 at the top and got him completely out of sequence. And then when he went to the throttle down near the bottom, it skated on him, and it just got him off track. So, yeah, I think that 133.7 is going to stand for Magnuson here.
Into turn 11.
Yeah,
looks like he's pedaling it a little, but we'll see if he dives for pit lane or if he'll come all the way around. It looks like he will come all the way around. So I suppose we've been more surprised before. Let's see. I don't think it'll be a pickup, but still a solid time. It is not a pickup, but a 133.786. The only driver that can knock him off that top spot, though, is Ido Waxman, who is approaching shortly in this silver C6 Corvette. Now, Ido's season has gone to plan. He's run 3 rounds. He's won all of them.
Oh, and he's off on the first lap.
Well, commentator cursed before
well done.
So he's won every round he's entered. But this could be the first one that he doesn't. If he can't get it back in lap 2, he's on it. He knows this is his last opportunity. He's still good enough for second by 0.2 of a second.
Oh, my goodness. That's unbelievable with that big moment.
Look at him working that wheel.
Yeah.
Right out to the edge of 1, and he's, you know, he doesn't have to even have that clean of a lap, just cleaner than that one.
Yeah. Well, and the concern may have been there that, you know, when he went off there at the top of 11, he dropped the right side tires. Well, then you're in 11 and 12 is a left, so you're not scrubbing those right sides, getting the dirt and grass off of them. Then you got to attack turn 1 with tires you're not real sure about, and he just gave it. So he's committed here.
Down the backstretch. 3 wins on the season: Watkins Glen, Midwest Festival, and New Jersey Motorsports Park, which was just 2 weeks ago. Here the tires really upset with them trying to carry that much speed, but staying online. And Ido is one of our instructors here. He does a really good job placing this car on track, but it is just a lot of car to handle.
It is.
Without any kind of downforce, without any significant downforce from a big rear wing or something of the sort.
Yeah, there's not much downforce on that car. It's down to that mechanical grip and the driver's feel. He looked like he was a little wide of the apex in 4, and sometimes you'll give that up because you can run a little wider arc and use the banking a bit. And it all depends on how you're working. But, man, he is pushing hard. That time, really, really good through 11.
It will not surprise me if he goes to the top of the board. He has entered now 4 rounds. Will he go 4 for 4 in Street GT in the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship? Yes, he will, by 1.5 seconds. Ido Waxman wins again in Street GT. He has just been on it this season.
He's an aminal.
He's really good. And that'll be another trophy on the Ido Waxman shelf of trophies for this season.
And not only that, that was the fastest lap we've seen turned here by anybody in this podium sprint. So now into street mod, and it's Kyle McHugh out there in this GR Supra.
Yeah, again, another great platform for street GT or street mod, depending on how much you want to get into it. This Supra platform has proven to be really reliable and very fast. and you can do a lot to them before they start to give you problems. A lot of it was electronics on the early models, but Jackie Ding and the PhD crew have done a lot in development to figure out how to get around those systems and make changes to make the car faster. And Kyle McHugh, now the fastest car in Podium sprint at a 1:31.561, and that is almost as fast as the qualifying time that put him here. So given that the track conditions aren't quite as good as before, I'd say that's a solid place to start.
Yeah, he found exactly what he needed out there, and that was his first lap. See if he's got anything left in the quiver here. Look at the speed down that back straight. Folding it in, a little wide there. You can hear that front end scrub. He was pushing there.
Over the hill.
Did you hear him drop a gear?
Love the sounds of these cars too, Greg.
Oh. Yeah.
And inline 6, the BMW sourced, which at first there was a lot of people that said, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's proven itself time and time and time again that that engine is very, very strong. And Kyle McHugh putting it to the test here through turn 11 and into the carousel for the final time. This is his last opportunity to improve and set his finishing result here at the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Kyle McHugh crossed the stripe, and a 1:31.561 is where he will stay.
Yep. It wasn't as tidy as he would have liked. He just was missing some apex. He was just driving as hard as he possibly could. And I'm not sure why anybody would have an issue with the inline BMW in that. One, they're one of the finest sounding engines out there.
Yeah.
And two, they're bulletproof. I don't know why anybody would have questioned that.
Yeah, but either way, it has proven to be a stout combination. And so is this, the Mercedes AMG Biturbo V8 under the hood of Cal Fortner's AMG GTS. A car that has been real successful in street mod so far this season. Here comes Cal across the stripe, and it's faster than McHugh by 0.2 of a second.
0.2, so he's up on top now, feeding it into turn 1. This car, as you can see, has a lot of aero, and a lot of it comes right from the factory. And I don't know if he's augmented it and how much you can, but it comes stacked with some pretty good aero, so he can really hustle it.
Yeah, and Cal Fortner is currently 4th in the season standings for the street modified category. 71 points to Kyle McHugh's 82. He is 2nd. The driver that's leading this, though, is Michael Amick. We'll see him in a little bit. And Dewey DeWitt's 3rd. So everybody that's in the top 4 in the standings is represented here in the Podium Sprint.
All right.
Oh, hear the splitter chunk off the ground there a touch. I was talking to Rich and Edie yesterday, Cal's parents who run Al's Auto Body, a body shop in Indiana, where they work on this car and get it prepped. They were saying that about 170 miles an hour is where their splitter mount started to fail. So they figured out it was bending off of the car because of how much downforce it was generating. So absolutely, this splitter is working if it's scooping air so much that they're having trouble keeping it on the car.
You bet. And 170 miles an hour is not chucking about here. No. It is hustling. Let's see what he does here. Really enters wide, doesn't he? He doesn't, some people like to just stay tight to the inside. He just makes a big loop through there. And with the aero, that may allow him to just roll more speed, and it pays off on the exit. Wow.
And stays at a 31.327.
Yeah.
Close. Just 0.2 between him and McHugh. And that will toss things over to the next car on track, which is the points leader in street modified. That is Michael Amick in the number 6 Subaru. And Amick at Midwest Fest gave Dewey DeWitt a run for his money, but Dewey's got the boogeyman running well. And then there's the wild card of Ryan Matthews, who has been here a couple of times this season and has been a thorn in the side of both of those drivers. Amick across the stripe. And where does he land? At a 1:29.730, which will put him ahead of Fortner and McHugh and to the top by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, nice lap. Nice lap, and a really good through one on this one as well. You can just hear that engine just.
And he has solidified himself a spot on the podium now because he's got 2 drivers behind him.
Sure has.
That can't go back out and defend, so Cal Fortner and Kyle McHugh, I guess their luck is still to be determined by the next couple of drivers. And once you run those laps, you come back to the paddock, Greg, and you're just crossing your fingers that the next guy after you has a moment or slows down or something. Because your fate is up to them at that stage, right? You've done all you can do now.
Oh, I hear those tires working.
They're working hard.
Balancing the car a little bit on the throttle, all those little dabs of the throttle. You know, that's changing the weight distribution front to rear. And driving a race car around a track is an application is a study in applied physics, and getting the weight where you want it, front, rear, side to side, and everything. Well, he gives himself a lot of room through 11, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly did. The distant sounds echoing off the hills there through the backside of the track. They call it Thunder Valley for a reason, Greg, and
yes,
it's for that reason. Here comes Amick. Final corner, is it an improvement for Amick? No. A 129.730 is where he will stay atop the street modified leaderboard, and that will leave the next cars up to be Ryan Matthews, followed by Dewey DeWitt. So Matthews is on his flyer now.
Matthews was he was a really pleasant surprise in this qualifying, wasn't he? Not so much that he made it into the top 5, but that he had that great lap in that one qualifying session to jump up into second.
Yeah, his best finish this year was a second. That came back at GRIDLIFE Midwest Festival in June. He had a third at Carolina Motorsports Park when he had that differential issue that we talked about earlier this weekend, and he had a 6th place at Watkins Glen. So 3 festivals. This will be his 4th event. Again, we take your best 4 of the season as your championship run. And tiebreakers are done in a variety of ways, and we have tiebreakers down a long ways away, especially with this new points format that closes up the gaps a lot, and it makes track records that much more important because they're the differentiators in ties.
And again, you get a track record in any session you go out, and it's a point. And you think about how close some of these championships can be. All right, here we go. And time to find out what Mr. Matthews has done.
Will it be to the top of the board for the 121 After Dark Speed? Second on lap 1. He's still got one more to go, Greg.
Yeah, and a second by 2/10. So certainly not out of the question here. He can piece together. Yeah, I'll tell you, he's giving away a little bit on the exits of these corners, isn't he?
Leaving a bit of margin. He just needs a little bit. 0.2 of a second in this Corvette. And he has not yet won a podium sprint. As I mentioned, his best finish was that second at Gingerman Raceway. And who was it second to? Dewey DeWitt, who's coming up after these guys. And Dewey is just beginning his first flying lap now in Boogeyman. And we'll have to keep our eye on that car, already smashing the track record for street mod all-wheel drive.
A little bit of dance at the back here of Ryan's car. Not a lot. I don't think it was anything disruptive. Nice and tidy down through here.
And had to hear the lift and the tires spinning over the crest.
Now here, how much of this track does he use? Again, gives away a little bit there. And that's a daunting place to drop your tires up onto that curb here. And now through 11, he just, when you're 3-4 feet off of that curb, it's just tough to make up time on somebody who's using all the track in comparable equipment.
It's a podium regardless, but is it to the top? Ryan Matthews, no, he improves, but it's not an improvement enough to put him ahead of Michael Amick. So he will finish
2/10, he found 1.
Yes.
That close.
He will finish 3rd at worst because Dewey DeWitt is up next, and he's the driver that determines whether Amick wins or not. This is the exact same scenario that we were in at Midwest Festival a couple of months ago. Dewey, big slide there into turn 11, hustling Boogeyman through turn 11.
This guy, when he's on, he is something to watch.
Out of turn 13, throttling up. Here he comes. Needs to beat a 129.730. Yes, 128.172.
Wow, big gain. 128.172, so that's a win. And but he's going to give it one more lap. I'm sure he'd love to see a 127 in this.
Well, he's broken now the track record here by 2 full seconds.
Wow.
In street mod, which is just crazy to think about.
Now, this thing just flies, and he obviously knows how to extract everything about. he calls it boogeyman.
Yeah,
because it boogies.
It certainly looked like a boogeyman a couple of seasons ago. It was a patchwork of all sorts of different body panels, and certainly with the wrap on it, it looks the part now. But yeah, I wonder if he's going to push her a little more, or if, well, it still looks like he's on it.
Yeah, he sure does. And why not?
And he'll know, again, looking at that dash. Looking at the dash, he'll see that 128.1 and know that that's good. I just don't know if he knows where it is in reference to everybody else.
Exactly.
And just listen to this thing as it comes back around.
That is a smaller displacement engine that's working.
Yeah, it is a Subaru and Dewey would like to let everyone know that it is a Subaru.
Yeah.
And across the stripe and into pit lane he will go. So Dewey DeWitt, your winner of Street Modified in the Podium Sprint for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. That's another one for Dewey this season.
Yeah, he's just been on form this year.
And so now we move into our track mod group. So this is going to be fun as we've got cars now circulating the 2.25 mile track here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. 2 classes to go, and we'll wrap things up with a GLTC race to finish out the day. And there is some pending drama that we'll share with you at the start of the show for GLTC. Here is Josh Powers in the blue number 19 Corvette on the track now.
Yeah, I think the headline for any press release on GLTC from this weekend is just going to be drama at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah. Well, you know, thankfully it's not the kind of drama where anyone's picking up body panels or anything of the sort. But it is drama nonetheless, and it has a championship implication.
Yeah, it does.
And we'll get into that a little later. You'll have to stick around for GLTC Race 4 coming up in about a half hour or so. Maybe a little less time. Here comes Josh Powers.
And that beautiful Corvette. And I'm particularly fond of blue, particularly this shade of blue. And this Corvette just looks phenomenal, sounds equally good. And
I think he was just actually picking up his first green flag, actually. Yeah. So because Dewey didn't run his second.
That's right.
Didn't complete it. So we are.
That was interesting. Did you see how shallow he came out of one there?
Yeah, maybe just leaving some margin for that first lap. And
yeah, but I mean,
I'm sorry, that was a timed lap. It was a 37.5. It was just down the order a little bit. It was at the bottom of the stacker, so that's why we didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a timed lap, but I mean, you know, he left at least half the track width at the exit of one. So
yeah, his qualifying time was a 36.1, which would the fastest he would go with that time is about 15th or so on the overall ticker here. But again, track mod, very different rule set than some of these others. Hustling it over the crest, late back on throttle. But the sounds, Greg, are so good.
I know. We're both in here just going, ah. Yeah, it just sounds immaculate here.
Yeah, big thanks to Jacob and the stream team for setting up those microphones and really improving the audio experience. Man, I bet you there's a lot of folks at home, Greg, as storied of an announcer as you, and as long as I've been around, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to hear us shut up for a lap with how good the sounds have been. But we're going to keep talking because that's what we get paid to do.
Exactly. You saw there he ran a little wide at the exit of 12. And so
it is a pickup in time. It is 37.5, just not a huge pickup. He will stay where he is on the timing and scoring. But as far as top seed in track mod, I don't think that's going to do it. Yeah. Here comes a driver that is going to be racing with us shortly, and it's Luke McGrew, a GLTC driver running his uncorked GLTC tune off into turn 1 in his Corvette. Now this car makes about 240, 250 horsepower in its GLTC trim, but north of 400 when he flips the switch.
And he has it flipped, make no mistake about it. It's going to be fascinating to see what he's going to be able to do. He's already, he had a nice lap, obviously, to the top of the class. But you look at where he was in terms of time to Andrew de Koning, who was quickest. He was a couple of seconds shy, so he's really got to dig.
Yeah, 1:32.095 was his qualifying time, a couple seconds clear of what GLTC has been running this weekend, obviously assisted by the extra horses under the hood. And nice lap here. Luke, coming from a time attack background, he's no stranger to this competition, at least historically, but new to this style of competition. We've never done this with Luke in the field like this weekend.
And I asked him earlier, about making the change, jumping from the time attack tune to the racing tune for GLTC, and he said the bigger issue is going from the GLTC car into this car, because you got to remember to brake earlier. And he said if you get your mindset wrong, suddenly you're kind of elbows flying inside that cockpit.
Well, Luke has already jumped Josh Powers in the other Corvette, so we'll see if he can best it this time around. Here he comes across the stripe, 31.493, 30.9. Just absolutely obliterates his qualifying time that got him into the podium sprint, so he could jump up,
you bet,
maybe even onto the podium. What a story that would be, Greg.
That would be absolutely phenomenal, and I mean, he's capable, and he has just shown it here. So now out next is Bronson McNeamer.
Yep.
Is coming out, and this car is a screamer.
V8 packed under the hood of that NB generation, a second-gen Mazda Miata.
Like I said, Can-Am meets Mazda Miata.
It is a cool-looking car.
Stacks popping through the hood. It is, and it sounds glorious.
Bro Fab on the front, and across the stripe can Bronson McNeamer go to the top, and he will not. So he's about 0.8 of a second behind Luke McGrew. So second right now after lap 1. One more lap to get some time.
When I look at this car, what pops into my head is wicked-looking hot rod.
It's got the good proportions. It's got the time attack wings and arrow and things on it, and it's very well put together. I mean, it's easy to make a Miata track car that doesn't really look the part, but this one, it's not ratty or run down or broken up. It just looks so good, so complete.
And it maintains the lines of the Miata, which I think are really cool. And then just to see those big stacks coming through, it lets you know this is a serious beast.
Okay, so the one thing he's going to have to worry about now is potential traffic. There's Chris Boersma on a warm-up lap, and Chris has got to get rolling here because Bronson's still on a flyer.
Either get rolling or move.
Yep.
Don't hold him up.
And if you do hold up a driver, Greg, it will be a disqualification.
Yep.
So Chris has got to be careful here. You're giving a whole lap all to yourself, and you got 2.25 miles to use it. So, Chris should know better than that, Greg. Unfortunately, he's been around the paddock long enough that that was not typical of what we'd expect from Boersma. And
I think McNeamer, we've seen this before. When a driver's been held up, they will talk to race control, and race control will send them out at the end of the session for another run, which is only fair.
Right. Oh, totally only fair. I just hate it because Chris has been around long enough that he knows the drill with this, and he would not want someone to do what he just did to them. So, unfortunately, that's not what we want to see, but off into the keyhole, and he'll start his run now.
Yep. And you want to look at a car with some pretty significant aero on it. Look at that front splitter assembly. I mean, the wing on the back, sizable enough, but you could have T on that front splitter.
Yeah, so I guess the question now becomes, with that impeding of the driver, is this going to count? My prediction is no. We have historically disqualified drivers for doing that, rightfully so.
Yep.
And so I guess we'll jury's out on that, if that call will be made, but we'll see.
Yep.
And you hate, Greg, the thing that stinks is you spend all this time to come here and you get into this competition and you throw it away like that.
I know, and
right?
it wasn't like he'd taken the green yet.
No.
His
car's fast. He's seated higher than Bronson. He could have throttled up and drove away, but the decision not to it could cost him a trophy here this weekend.
Yep.
And that is a mistake that a driver of his caliber, I'm just surprised that he's made.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't this isn't just a general qualifying session. You know that the guy behind you here, if you were just released, is on a flyer. It's a simple deal. Just dip the brake, pull over, let him go through. So we'll see here as Boersma comes through now, and take a look at where he slots in at this stage.
Yeah, it would have been P1 if this time were to stand, but that's up to the race director to make that decision, Greg, and
that
that
seemed
might
pretty
not.
blatant to me.
Yeah.
So.
And Bronson, I think, was on a quicker lap that second time, too.
Yes, I think he was, too.
And so this opens up the door for Luke McGrew to potentially win this.
That's
also.
an absolute possibility here.
Yeah. So with we've got, who else we got after Chris Boersma? It's Andrew DeKoning in the Tesla Model S. That car has gone faster than anyone's gone in this track mod group so far still. So we've got that wild card still coming up.
Yeah. Sounds like his engine's off just a little bit there, too. It's a little burble under acceleration.
232 has just taken the green flag.
So Boersma, 229.6, currently on top in this session. And he's... Once it gets up on the pipe, that burble seems to clear just a little bit. But he, too, given a lot of respect to the exit curbs here. So let's see what he does here. And, you know, if it stands, obviously, does he better on 129.6, Kyle?
Yes, 129.539.
By a tenth. But it's that white Tesla. And, it's interesting. You see all of these other cars have all the graphics, the decals on it. And this has a number panel.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Right. Clean and simple, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the Tesla way.
But look at that hood, those big vents up front. That is to get air down into that compartment, because the motor and battery are hugely susceptible, their performances, to heat. And so you are trying to get as much air into the cooling systems for those as imminently possible. And just that whisper quiet but amazing performance.
We'll see what he can do as he leaves turn number 13 and comes across the stripe. Silent. And to the top of the 127.876. That is a really good lap time for DeKoning and puts him on top of track mod.
Yeah, that was a great lap, and that's a win.
Yep.
We'll see whether he completes this lap or just ducks into the pits. But
looked like
really
brakes pretty early there. So
I thought so too.
Yep, and he'll know that was a really solid lap time, right? So I don't think there's much for him to run, as Bronson McNeamer is getting to run again.
Good for him.
That's good news. And thanks to the grid staff there for catching that report. Now, the thing that stinks about that is who would have known what he would have run the first time, and now everything's kind of hot and already over temp. So it's not the same. So you're trying really hard to avoid that scenario as much as you can. But at least Bronson will get another go at it here. Yes,
and you make a good point, because on that second lap, tires were maybe just where he wanted them. Everything was set, and now he's had to wait. Those tires have cooled off. That's a heat cycle on them, so they're not quite as grippy. Just all these little things. But sometimes the red mist, you focus that, you can do amazing things.
Right, and we'll see. Hey, maybe if he comes out on top of this, it could have been a blessing in disguise, too.
Yep.
So we'll see.
And a great story.
Yeah, I don't know that he's quite got the pace to knock this 232 off the scoring, but he might have enough to beat McGrew. He was only off by a little bit.
That's
I think,
a good point,
I think he's got the ability to, as DeKoning is going to finish this lap, it looks like. So he will come back to the checkers. Silent across the stripe. And obviously no improvement there. I think that was kind of a pseudo cool down.
Yeah, I think he was taking a little victory lap there.
Yep. And so Bronson McNeamer, here he comes up through turn number 11 on his makeup lap here after being impeded. Through turn 11. Down a gear.
He was on the throttle all the way once he made that turn in. That was really nice.
Real nice clipping down on the inside of turn 12 and across the stripe. And there's a checkered for Bronson McNeamer, and it is not an improvement. It's a 32.23. So for now, he scored fourth, but these results are unofficial.
Yes.
So these, we're going to have the staff look at that impeding. We got a great view of it, thankfully. Big thanks to the stream team for that. It will be part of the review process for whether or not a disqualification is coming for the 33. But that will conclude our track mod group for now, Greg. There is still one more class to go, and that is our unlimited category. And this one is
Stuff's
often
getting weird now with this class.
It's getting weird because unlimited, sometimes you've got cars that are built for it, like the 52 of Nick Gardner's GT500. It's also a catch-all for stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. So you kind of get a mix of random things, and it can be kind of fun.
Yeah, you get all kinds of different looks in this category as well here. So here we go. onto the hammer comes Nicholas Gardner. You talk about a car that's got a sound to it. Oh, and he's off big time, and he's into the gravel. Nice job getting it out.
Well, so 4 off on lap 1 disqualifies that lap, but you can go again. So you got your 2 laps, and going 4 off in a normal session, Greg, if you don't self-report, your times stop getting scored. In the podium sprint, it operates differently. If you go 4 off, you still have your second lap. As long as you run that lap clean, you're good to go. So we'll see if he can get the job done next time around. But he's pushing, trying to find some time.
Absolutely, he knows. With his position, he had a 1:31.1 was his time, and the guys up in the sharp end were a couple seconds faster. So he knows he needs to get up. And what's really crucial for him now is to make sure on this. The remainder of this lap that he really scrubs those tires clean and make sure, because on that warm-up lap, if he did the job and he got those tires nice and hot and off like that where you're through grass and gravel, it just sticks to that soft rubber on those slicks, and so you need to get them really scrubbed clean to be able to put in your flyer now. And
here's Gardner off into turn 9 and getting set up for a second go at it here, so he knows what not to do now into turn 1 and try to find a bit more pace and a bit more grip in that first corner. And the problem is they see the grill's all jammed full of grass. Yep. And so I wonder if that's going to affect the temperatures in this car and whether or not it can go more than a lap without having that serviced and cleaned off.
Yeah, well, the good thing for him is he's got just 1 lap that he has to make it work for here as he comes around and starts his second lap. And it's not like it's completely filled there, so he should be okay for 1 lap here, certainly.
Bit more gentle into turn 1 that time.
Just a bit more circumspect, yeah. And fortunately, the grass mixes with the graphics on the car really nice.
It fits the livery, I'll give you that.
It's almost like highlighting.
Yeah. Oh, a little awkward kind of tank slapper moment into turn 2 there. Kind of rotated out on him onto entry. And throttles back down as the next car on track is already rolling.
Well, and every once in a while, when you have an off like that, it just messes up your mental rhythm, right? And it's just tough to just be able to click that. As I've often said, one of the best things a racer can have on occasion is a really short memory.
Yes.
And sometimes you just got to be able to compartmentalize and go, yeah, that's gone.
Yep.
That didn't exist, and just do what you're going to do.
And for Nick Gardner, there's only going to be 4 cars in this group, by the way. Dallas Reed was in it, but is not going to attempt because of that engine issue. So Gardner is the 4th seed and the first driver out. So that means that we'll only have Devin Keeling, Ernestus Pizzellis, and Steve Luca. And also Ernestus Pizzellis also had a problem as well.
He did,
so
yeah.
If he had not repaired that, he will also not make an appearance. That's the challenge of unlimited class cars, is they often have unlimited problems as well.
And they cost unlimited budget to run at times. So there's a lot to the unlimited thing here. All right, let's see what he's able to do after that early off for Nicholas Gardner.
Yeah, big pedal, and he jumps up to a 1:31.716. So pretty respectable time, I'd say. His qualifying time was a 1:31.1. So I'll say he'd be pretty happy with that.
I would think, especially with that off. So, yeah, well done. Now it's the 4:30 of Devin Keeling in another Mustang. This is not a Shelby. This is a straight-up Mustang, but it's a quick one.
We'll see how he does. First lap across the stripe, and he will jump up to a 1:31.472. So he bests Nick Gardner by a couple of tenths of a second, and is now leading the unlimited category with a drop of tires at the exit of 1.
Well, certainly isn't a case that they're not giving it and trying here, are they? They are pushing as hard as possible. And I don't know how costly that will be. And, certainly when that happens, you can't just keep your foot completely in it. So, you have to you don't lift, because then the car is just going to come around, but you do breathe it a little bit. So we'll see just how that's going to play out.
Next car on track, already taking the green as well, and into the braking zone. Here comes Keeling for turn 4. Here, the scrape of the splitter again. Yep. That mic is picking up that sharp sound.
These sounds are just fabulous here. I think that next car out was Luca, so I don't think we're going to see Pizzellis.
Yep, I think his issue must have been terminal. So, again, the unlimited cars struggling with some attrition here in this final session of the weekend.
All right, so Devin Keeling is just, at this point, is fighting for where he's going to end up on the podium. He was a little quicker than Gardner, so he he certainly is going to be in the top 2 at this stage.
And breaking into turn 12 and final run here to the checkers for Keeling. And across the start-finish line, he already has the lead, but he will not go quicker. It's still a 31.472 that second time around. So Steve Luca is up next, and everyone that has attempted a lap here in the sprint is going to get a trophy regardless, because the other 2 cars that were entered did not make an appearance.
And Steve Luca here in this Mustang, he had a little bit of time over the rest of the pack, and this thing just flies in his hands.
Now, this is another Ford Mustang, as Luca has actually co-driven with Nick Gardner in the past until this car was ready. See all the carbon fiber bodywork on it, trying to make it light where you can. These cars are not naturally all that light, but right to the top with a 128.540 in Unlimited. So he's already got the win in the Unlimited class. See the rear window flexing as well.
Exactly.
That's likely Lexan. So again, trying to save weight, and it's paying off in this Mustang platform.
Yeah, he's just really, really quick in this car. And at 128.5, he was a little bit quicker than that in the qualifying as well. So there's more to come here possibly. Late in the afternoon here, that haziness in the sky has never left us. So I think the track is still in really good shape at this stage. And I know he'd love to drop into the 127s.
Look at the sounds of this car again.
Yeah.
A little bit of pedaling there over the hill at 5.
Sound bouncing through the trees here.
Into Thunder Valley again. A symphony here at GRIDLIFE. Hey, sometimes we don't have music at the festivals, but we still have music at the festivals. If you know what I mean.
That's a really good point. Yeah, there are bands and there are orchestras, and this is part of an orchestra.
An 8-piece orchestra.
Exactly. All right. I'm really curious to see what he puts up here, see if he gets into those 127s to join some of the other guys out here. He's capable of it. Here he comes.
28.5 was what he ran last time, and it is not an improvement, I don't think, for the 500.
28.2.
Oh, it is an improvement. Sorry.
Yep.
He jumped up so high on the board I couldn't find it. I was looking at a different spot on the screen. So that concludes our NOS Energy Track Battle Podium Sprint here from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And Greg, that was a really fun one. Dewey DeWitt
was great.
snags a win in the street modified category. Mario Maroney steals one in Falcon Club TR. Kevin Gu jumps up to the top in Sunday Cup. We had a really good run in those early categories. Still have to sort some things out, I'm sure, in the track modified class, and potentially in the unlimited class with a couple of offs. So we'll see how things shift and shuffle. But again, check the GRIDLIFE social media for updates on that. We're going to wrap things up here, though, from the Track Battle Podium Sprint. Greg, final thoughts on Time Attack this weekend. This was a thrilling representation of this new Podium Sprint format.
Absolutely. It played out beautifully. And what I loved, we saw in some of the categories the surprises, the guys that really put in some, something special, like with Ido Waxman. We saw him just continue to show absolute pace and the like, but the biggest thing is the excitement of this new format with this Podium Sprint, everybody qualifying to get into this, and then this single car format to allow us to really watch and cherish these laps. It was great.
So the Podium Sprint is complete, but there is one more thing on our agenda, and it is upcoming. It is GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4. It'll go green in about 15 minutes. We'll step away for a brief moment and be back with our final race of the weekend and our final on-track broadcast action here from GRIDLIFE Mid-Ohio Meet. Kyle Heyer with Greg Kramer. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Born on the track, bred on the mountains, raised on the podium, ready for anything and everything. Learn more about our entire line at falcontire.com.
Owning a car can be expensive. It can also be confusing. What? And when things don't go right, there's no doubt it could be frustrating. But it can also be a lot of fun. And for those reasons, FCP Hero exists. Check this out. Do you and your car a favor and head over to fcpro.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and when it comes to classics and high-performance cars, I only trust America's #1 racing oil, Valvoline VR1. It's built on Valvoline's long legacy in racing, so I can continue to build my own. With 2 times more zinc than the industry standard, VR1's high-performance formula is tested on the track and trusted on the road to ensure your engine is protected from metal-to-metal contact. And I use it so much, I haven't got my car on the bottle. That's why whether I'm racing or cruising, I protect everything I drive with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.